That's what they're calling him. He's never played that before. Signed his contract late last week. It is a minimum salary deal, $920,000, nothing guaranteed. Again, more proof that Tim Tebow is going to have to earn his way onto the roster at a position that he has never played before. Certainly a salary and a contract like that, Greeny, reflects the fact that he's never played that position before and that over the last 8 years he's played as many NFL games as you and I have.
That's fair. It's a bit of a cheap shot, but it's fair. Let me come to Orlovsky here if I can.
Cheap shot.
Dan, I haven't had you on the show since this happened last week. I'm really interested to hear your perspective. Particularly, I had some people suggest that this might be detrimental to the development of the young man who is supposed to be the future of that franchise, and that's Trevor Lawrence. What are your thoughts?
This is going to have zero impact on Trevor Lawrence. Now, let me be clear. This is not an Urban Meyer thing, and this is not a Tim Tebow thing. This is a Shad Khan thing, the Jaguars owner, okay? He decided to give Urban Meyer full power. And when you get full power, absolute power, use contact with reality. And the reality is Tim Tebow's not going to make this football team. He hasn't been great at football in 12 years, okay? So I'm not expecting him to be an impactful player on this football team. But when you have full power in the NFL, it usually ends up poor as a coach coming from college football. Chip Kelly, Bill O'Brien, it usually does not end well. And Shad Khan gave Urban Meyer this full power. Now listen, they took Trevor Lawrence to be the next Peyton Manning. They took Trevor Lawrence to be the next John Elway. If signing Tim Tebow in May is going to negatively impact Trevor Lawrence being those guys, he was never going to be those guys. I don't think this has any impact on Trevor Lawrence and the player that he is going to potentially be.
Okay, fair enough. But it does give Dominique Foxworth and I the opportunity to do our favorite thing, which is psychoanalyze people who we barely know from a distance. So we all know that Tim Tebow comes with a thing, right? There's a whole Tebow aura. It's kind of hard to define, but we all know what it is. Dominique, what if he does make the team? If he doesn't make the team, then obviously none of this matters. But if he does, then what?
I mean, I think if he does make the team, it doesn't necessarily make sense to me because he's not going to be a tight end. He's going to end up being a gadget player. And in that situation, you do take reps away from Trevor Lawrence. But I think you could look at it the other way. Like having Tim Tebow there and front page stories in Jacksonville being about what Tim Tebow is doing, because they will be, whether he contributes or not. Having that attention drawn away from Trevor Lawrence as he's trying to learn and develop, like you could argue that that is a good thing. I tend to not believe in like negative distractions because everyone kind of has things going on in their life. Like having a guy on your team is going to make you a worse football player. But I do find it interesting. I can't imagine that if Trevor Lawrence is going to be a great football player, Tim Tebow showing up should absolutely not get in the way of that.
Go ahead, Danny.
I agree. Listen, Trevor Lawrence has been in the spotlight since he could wipe himself, guys. Like the spotlight has been on him since he walked onto campus and won the national championship. Okay, so like this is not going to have any type of impact. Whether Tim's getting a lot of attention and he wants the attention, I don't think Trevor Lawrence is like that. I think he craves normal life since he's been in the spotlight for so long. Or Tim is getting negative attention and it takes some eyes off Trevor Lawrence. This is about Trevor Lawrence and his development. This is a bad move by Urban Meyer because there's blind spots. There's no reason to add a Tim Tebow. Now, I'm not surprised. There's nepotism and cronyism in the NFL. But Trevor Lawrence has been in the spotlight since he came out of diapers, essentially.
Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just confused because off the top of this, you said he's been in the spotlight since he could wipe himself. And then you said the spotlight hit when he won the national championship at Clemson. So I'm really confused about Trevor Lawrence's development. There are some issues there if that's when he learned. It took a little while to catch up. Maybe reading defense is going to be tough for that guy.
He was like you.
I still haven't learned, man.
Late bloomer.
Making enough money, somebody to take care of that for me.
24 minutes in, and we are, again, proving to be the most immature show on the network. Graziano, quickly if we can, on the Urban Meyer of it all, I think Dan Orlovsky's point is a good one. Now, they give these guys total control of everything, and sometimes the smartest people know what they don't know. Yeah. How much concern are you hearing about the way this thing has started?
Greeny, there's a lot of skepticism around the NFL when a college coach comes in, especially gets this kind of power. A lot of people in the NFL looking for missteps and obviously can view this as a...
The Lakers will look to bounce back on Tuesday. And so here we go. Our favorite odd couple, Zach Lowe, and Big Perk, Kendrick Perkins, getting up with us today. Big Perk, I will come to you. I mentioned all 16 teams in action over the last 48 hours. What was your number one takeaway from the weekend?
Well, Greeny, it had to be the Memphis Grizzlies, right? Just think about it. This team went into Utah, one of the hardest places to play in, and get a win. Utah beat people by 10 plus or more during the regular season. This young core is resilient. Dylan Brooks and John Morant, that's one of the most underrated backcourts in the game. And you know what, Greeny? Let me tell you something. It's not going to get easier for the Utah Jazz because now this Memphis Grizzlies team, they have confidence. They have swagger. And like my grandmother say, they have old souls, baby. They really do. They have old souls, and they play with a great, inspiring type chemistry.
For as young as they are, I agree with you. They basically won 3 playoff games now, consecutively, beating San Antonio, Golden State, and then taking game 1 last night. Zach Lowe, how about you? What was your number 1 takeaway from the weekend?
Well, I can't speak to the age of anybody's soul, but number 1 would be the West looks wide open. If you had to pick a winner to win the West right now, who would it be? The Lakers are down, the Clippers are down, the Mavericks are up, the Grizzlies are up, the Suns look like a juggernaut, and some of the young kids in their first playoff games, Dylan Brooks, John Morant, Devin Booker, Trae Young, welcome to the stage. They look ready, baby.
It was a really good weekend in a lot of different ways. All right, I like that. Let me stay with you a second, Zach. We opened the show today with the Lakers. Anthony Davis, a minus 18 in the game yesterday. LeBron James with the shoulder. Who knows what was going on. You know, he had a little bit of a controversy off the floor over the weekend and all the rest of that. Are the Lakers in trouble?
Yeah, they're in trouble. I mean, if LeBron and AD, and particularly LeBron, is just not going to put his imprint on the game for 48 minutes, he can't wait till the last 5 minutes when they're down by 12 to start posting up and playing bully ball and all that. If he can't impact the game for 48 minutes, the Suns are good enough to win this series. Absolutely.
What do you think, Big Perk?
I think Zach didn't get enough sleep last night. First of all, Zach, listen, the Lakers are not in trouble. Do we remember last year what happened in the postseason? They lost game one majority. They lost game 1 majority of the time. They always are going to bounce back. Anthony Davis is not going to have that type of performance that he had yesterday. I was very upset with him. He acted like he was allergic to the paint. He didn't get to the free throw line, settling for jumpers. But we know that he's going to bounce back with those Shaq, Wilt Chamberlain type numbers. And I'm just disappointed that you had the audacity to come on here today and say that the Lakers are in trouble.
Here we go. Here we go.
I expect better out of you. And for you to come on here to say that this morning, early this morning, is just disturbing to me.
I picked the Lakers in 6. I'm sticking with the Lakers in 6 because I don't believe in changing your prediction after every game. I agree they will bounce back and play better. I'm just saying, if LeBron, because of his ankle, can't be LeBron, yes, the Suns have a chance to win this series. No one wants to think for some reason that they have a chance. If LeBron's in that stage, they do. And I do agree they will bounce back, and AD will probably put up 35 and 15. I expect the Lakers to win game 2.
All right, again, we mentioned earlier, our analytics, our BPI now favors the Suns. Las Vegas still favors the Lakers. Super quickly, Big Perk, out of the 16 teams you saw this weekend, who looks like the NBA champ? Just who do you think? We've seen them each play 1 game. Granted, it is a tiny sample size. Who looks like the champion right now? Big Perk.
It's the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, just think, they struggle, and I get it. They're playing against a injured Boston Celtics team. But the fact of the matter is that I never thought I would say the Brooklyn Nets will win that game on defense. Granted, they only scored 104 points, but they held the Celtics to 93 points, I believe it was. So I'm looking at this Brooklyn Nets team, and I believe that Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant and James Harden all combined for like 80-something points. That's crazy.
Yeah, they can beat you with an 8-minute spurt. You cannot play them for 40 minutes, and they will just win the game in the other 8. Guys, stay with me here. We'll come back to you off the top of the hour. Much more on the NBA playoffs from the Odd Couple as we go. But next up, Big D, Dak Prescott, recovering well from ankle surgery after suffering a compound fracture during Week 5 of last season. He sat down with our Sage Steele, providing more